All right, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of ASRG Worldwide Webinars, bringing you the latest in innovation, automotive research, and education. My name is John Heldreth. I'm the founder of Automotive Security Research Group. Today is the 21st of January, and we are streaming to you live from Stuttgart, Germany. First of all, let me go ahead and quickly introduce myself. Like I said, my name is John Heldreth. I'm the founder of Automotive Security Research Group. I've worked in the automotive industry for the last 15 years or so now and focus my time on product or vehicle related security. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, in the US of A, but today I'm living in Germany and working at Porsche Engineering. Today I'm also accompanied by Sven Schran. Sven, would you like to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, John. So my name is Sven. I'm with ASRG for nearly 2 years now, and at the moment I have the role as coordinator for our Europe locations. And in my professional life, I work as product security officer for the Robot Bosch GmbH, which is a German company, but also known in the automotive world as one of the biggest suppliers.
Great, Sven. Thank you very much. Quickly, I would like to introduce the Automotive Security Research Group. We are a nonprofit organization focusing on the advancement of the automotive security industry. This is a community to support the coming together of two areas of competencies: the IT security market and the automotive market. This is a community for you, for the automotive engineer, for the IT security specialist, for the beginner, the hobbyist, even for the people that might be in the wrong video right now. But this is a community also of volunteers. Our entire organization is built on the volunteer efforts of the administrative team and, of course, people like yourself. We're trying to remove the boundaries that can occur in the automotive security industry. This could be communication, borders, finding ways to learn different solutions or what even is available as a solution. Because at the end of the day, we all have the same goals. And this is to keep our customers, our families, and our friends' data safe and secure, which can only be achieved together. If you want to get more involved, make an impact on the industry, start your own ASRG location, participate in technical committees, or be a part of a project, please reach out to us. You can find out more information about ASRG at www.asrg.io, or you can send us an email at hello@asrg.io. So quickly, I'd just like to give you an update of our growth. We now have 6,000 members in the world today, which is really makes me happy. It's a milestone since yesterday. We were hitting the 6,000th member. And we are in all of these following locations. I think it's actually 39 locations currently, but okay, 38 is probably all right as well. We're in 20 different countries worldwide. If you don't see an ASRG location near you and you believe that it might be a good idea to start such a community where you can discuss, network, and learn about automotive security, please reach out to us. You can reach out to us at hello@asrg.io or many of the other communication channels that are in the description in this YouTube. We have some great webinars coming up. Actually, we've had, I don't know, almost 40 webinars this or in 2020 and now in 2021 as well. And we have so many webinars planned. And this is because we have people like you who want to present something, want to share it with the community, bring your own knowledge, and give this on the rest of the community. So if you do have ideas for presentations, please contact us at cfp@asrg.io. And we'll get in contact with you and see what makes sense and when we can find a time slot for you to present at ASRG. So next week, January 28th, 2021, we have security testing from Tara, test coverage and regression strategies. And Dr. Ebert is going to be with us from Vector Consulting Services. February 4th, 2021, post quantum cryptography for those that love the mathematics, standardization and an automotive case study. Thomas Popelman, oh man, I said that bad, from Infineon will be with us. February 16th, speeding up vehicle vulnerability management with context based analysis. Guy Gilam is going to be joining us from Cybellum. If you didn't see in the news recently, Cybellum and ASRG have signed a partnership agreement and are working together to bring vulnerability management for automotive products to ASRG members. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. It's going to be really awesome. February 18th, we have Voiding Trust, real world attacks on trusted execution environments. And Cristo Faro and Nick are going to be joining us from Realize. Great talk there. And then February 23rd, we also have Thomas Liefert from Keysight Technologies joining us. And the title of his talk is not yet fixed, but it's going to be something in the area of automated penetration testing. So great webinars coming up. So please check back, join the webinars live, or you can, of course, always watch them afterwards on the YouTube channel. Very good. So, without further ado, I have the pleasure of introducing Nathaniel Meron tonight. He's joining us from C2A Security, where they focus on automotive cybersecurity. And he's going to be talking today, about harmonizing cybersecurity across the automotive ecosystem. So, Nathaniel, thank you for being on ASRG Worldwide Webinars today.
Thank you. Thank you for the intro, John, and thank you for having me today. Just making sure, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, loud and clear.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So, hi, everyone. My name is Nathaniel Meron, and I'm heading the product and marketing at C2A Security. We're at
Nathaniel,
Jerusalem.
can you
Yeah?
share your screen once more?
Sure. So can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Right, sorry, I guess the mute unmute ruined it. So C2A Security is a Jerusalem-based startup. We focus on automotive cybersecurity, where I'm heading the product. Now, I'll just point out that if you don't have time today to watch the talk, feel free to look at my blog section on Medium, where we share some content and some thoughts about automotive cybersecurity. So today, we're going to talk about automotive cybersecurity harmonization. So we'll do it in several steps. So the first thing we're going to focus on is how the industry is trying to adapt and adopt cybersecurity these days, because we've been through a process and it's an ongoing process. And the challenges are changing with time. And what are those challenges that we are currently facing as an ecosystem? What is a key missing link that we identified? And how can we improve each organization and the ecosystem as a whole? And at the end, we'll give a quick overview of the solution that C2A provides in that regard. So we know that connected vehicles are risky. This has been the discussion for the past decade, I guess. And we know that OEMs are implementing cybersecurity systems and deploy measures inside vehicles. Now, the next struggle is actually to be able to maintain the posture throughout the vehicle lifecycle. Because it's not only about designing security or doing Tara beforehand, but it's also about updating security policy when the vehicle is on the road, or making sure that it connects to a variety of systems in a secure manner. And then if an incident happens, being able to react quickly and reorchestrate a security. So we know that cybersecurity doesn't stop at the production of vehicles. Rather, it's paramount that security be accounted for throughout the entire vehicle lifecycle. So one of the things needed to maintain the vehicle security posture is being able to trace the hardware and software bomb of the different car models we are monitoring. Now, in a market research that we published several months ago, that included over 30 OEMs and tier ones, you can see that over 50% of the participants testified they do not have traceability over the hardware and software bomb. Now, if we don't have traceability, it's a serious challenge to maintain the security posture throughout the vehicle lifecycle. So the need to account for security throughout the entire lifecycle presents us with additional challenges. And those challenges might require new infrastructure or solutions to make those feasible. So auto manufacturers are implementing cybersecurity processes. And one of the foundations for a cybersecurity management system, right, or the ISO calling it SCMS, is risk assessment. And in our research, we asked, how much time does it take your organization to conduct risk assessment? And you can see that 56% estimated that risk assessment process takes them more than 3 weeks. And almost 15% noted that they are not even aware of such efforts currently. Now let's hold on a minute on this number. If as an OEM, I have multiple incidents happening on a daily basis, may they originate in vehicle on the road or from a vulnerability disclosure by an IT company, or maybe one of those vulnerability tracking services that we are using just pushed an alert. For each, we must conduct risk assessment. It is actually mandatory according to the ISO standards. That might take 3 weeks or more, and we might not be able to respond to any incident, no matter its severity. Basically, we're going to be flooded. There are definitely multiple reasons for this worrying stat, which on some of them you can read on our research. However, I do want to mention one here, which kept repeating itself in our engagement with the automotive industry in the past years and in our research. The complexity of the supply chain makes even the most basic actions too long, which unfortunately resulting in an unrealistic expectation that in D-Day, the automotive industry will be able to fight attackers. Now, the last point that I want to touch in regards to the state of the automotive cybersecurity industry is obviously regulation, right? Because I think that's the main highlight for those next couple of years, the main focus. So auto manufacturers are adopting ISO 21434. It's a fact. They want to, and they need to. And time is of the essence since concrete deadlines are already defined. And in our research, we asked what are the challenges in adopting the new ISO standard? And the list of reasons was extremely long. It was a closed question, so multiple selection question, but we obviously allowed the other, please specify, as you can see, and the list extended, which was very interesting. But there were quite common challenges across all participants. So you can see that 62% testified that they are coping with lack of implementation. I think just when we look at the risk assessment part of the ISO standard, there are generally, I think you can easily identify 3 ways for implementation, easy. And in addition, you can see that cost, coordination across different teams, and bomb blindness, which we discussed earlier, are chasing us in implementing the new standard. So currently we see auto manufacturers trying to independently come up with their own practical way of tackling the challenge of cybersecurity lifecycle management while adhering to these standards. So if we look at the industry today, we can say that we are past the initial education phase. So awareness is here. And auto manufacturers are adopting different systems and solutions throughout the vehicle lifecycle. But still, there are many challenges we are facing in our journey towards owning the security lifecycle. So what is it that we want? If we really want to overcome those new challenges, every OEM must be able to own the security lifecycle entirely. Now, I want us to take a step back. What is it that we need that will allow us to overcome those new challenges? Visibility is a main obstacle to overcome and the foundation for ownership. Now, when we try to protect a castle, we usually want to know the spec of the castle, right? We want to know how it's built, how are the walls, if there's any back door to the castle, how are the tunnels around it, what is the depth around them, and so on. If we want to protect something, we need to have good visibility into it. And when considering the number of vehicle models and topologies, complex supply chains, increasing connectivity and over-the-air updates, among other areas of consideration once the vehicle is on the road, visibility provides important means of constant and systematic analysis. With visibility into the vehicle's cybersecurity lifecycle, OEMs can perform risk assessment and analyze potential threat, plan their desired security policy, and enforce the chosen policy across single or multiple models to gain complete knowledge and full ownership. So I guess some of you that are watching the stream now saying, wow, this guy Nathaniel is really smart, aren't he? Really a smart ass. Because what I said, I guess, is nothing new for you. We all know what we want to achieve and how, but to get there, we have to address the elephant in the room. The root cause to the struggle OEMs are facing today, which is lack of harmonization across the automotive ecosystem. So in some cybersecurity processes, the automotive ecosystem must act as one to cope with attacks. So for example, in our research, there's an industry-wide agreement that not only OEMs should manage risk assessment processes, but actually every entity down the supply chain. So if we'll go back to our elephant, the root cause is actually coordinating between the different entities taking part in risk assessment. So even if visibility is hiding in plain sight underneath Excel spreadsheets and rogue databases, the challenge might be lack of harmonization. And we can actually see it in other activities conducted these days by auto manufacturers. If we want to go back to the question we asked in our research regarding adoption of the ISO 21434 standard, and the two main challenges pinpointed by our research, if we look a bit deeper and combine them into one, we can actually identify that those answers mean that the automotive industry is lacking concrete common implementation, but is similar or even identical across the ecosystem. And if we zoom out some more and look at the security lifecycle, we can identify many activities that will be done throughout a vehicle lifecycle, which can span over 2 decades, both by internal and external teams. So if we look at the security lifecycle, first, we might have a team that is doing TARA at the concept phase, can be an internal team, but also could be an external team. And this team eventually is going to provide some sort of report. And from that report, we're going to have security goals and security requirements. And then some other team might be responsible for designing security solutions. And some other team might be responsible for implementation of those security solutions. And then we'll probably want to do a TARA review, right? So make sure that there is coherence between the TARA report at the concept phase and the implementation. And then we are going to deploy maybe security solutions inside our vehicle. And 5 years afterwards, an incident might be reported by one of those solutions to a SOC, provided maybe by some other supplier or some other team in the OEM. And then we'll have the SOC operator or the analyst, which will then need that full spectrum visibility to conduct risk assessment. And it might be under time pressure because it might be a high priority safety issue. And perhaps he'll need to respond. So we might go through a security orchestration phase again. So the goal is to own the cybersecurity lifecycle by ensuring an end-to-end comprehensive and structured organizational processes. The way to do it is by harmonizing the entire lifecycle, because we must make sure that all the different teams, the knowledge, and the solutions are harmonized in a way that will allow the ecosystem to act and react as one, so we can keep attackers at bay. So how do we implement harmonized security lifecycle in practice? We need to create some sort of backbone for cybersecurity, that will harmonize the entire automotive ecosystem. Some sort of linkage between the ever-changing reality of cybersecurity challenges and the ability to deploy protection quickly based on an open ecosystem approach. Because we know that here in our backbone, there are multiple internal and external teams. And the challenges are changing on a daily basis, and we have to enable those teams to collaborate and react together as one quickly. And eventually, such infrastructure will allow us to own the security lifecycle. Because if we won't do that, there won't be ownership. It's going to be a mess. So we discussed auto manufacturers' big picture and strategy. And for me, it's important that you'll have two key takeaways from this talk. First, eyes on the prize. We want to achieve ownership. And the foundation for that is visibility. Remember that without knowing how our castle is built, we have no way to build the right protection for it, not to mention maintaining it. And vehicles could be much more complicated than castles. And we don't have only one castle. We have multiple car programs. And software is changing much faster than hardware. Second, we must harmonize all of our cybersecurity activities into one well-oiled system. And the way to do it is by creating cybersecurity hub, facilitating all of our activities, and that will enable us to really own the security lifecycle. So that was the first part of today's presentation about harmonizing cybersecurity across the automotive ecosystem. The challenge that we are all facing as an ecosystem, each supplier in his own angle and in his own battle, against attackers. And in the second part of the talk, I'll shortly present C2A's solution to the challenge that I presented to you today. And our solution is the first automotive cybersecurity lifecycle management platform, Autosec. So Autosec came to be in a boardroom at a major OEM's offices. So they told us that, we talked about a suite of embedded software solutions, but before attending to deploying cybersecurity solutions, they needed to tackle fundamental issues in the vehicle lifecycle. So they explained to us how challenging it is for OEMs to truly own the cybersecurity lifecycle. They have no visibility into the entire software or hardware BOM in their own vehicles. And they're not able to query the status of different components and architectures across car programs. And with more meetings, the problem became more complex. So coordination was a key challenge across the supply chain. And from an OEM's perspective, managing communication between all parties involved in-vehicle production, inside and outside the organization, was near impossible. So all the teams not only needed to communicate with colleagues in their organization, but also with their counterparts down the supply chain. So from Tier 1's perspective, collaboration with OEM was difficult, actually, and vague and frustrating. We also got to see. So cybersecurity requirements sometimes lacked clarity and scope, making them very hard to implement, deliver, and support throughout the vehicle lifecycle. And we were worried because if it was this difficult to join efforts without a security breach or other crisis, How strenuous would it be during one? So our idea to meet this need was to create a central hub to manage all vehicle cybersecurity activities. One that enabled proper cybersecurity response and allow OEMs and tier ones to communicate to all suppliers. So looking at the security lifecycle in its entirety, many activities span over 2 decades across internal and external teams. So from threat and risk assessment, PARA at the concept phase, through design and implementation of security policies with tier 1 and tier 2 vendors at the development phase, up to incident report and mitigation on the maintenance phase. So C2A's aim was to create a backbone for cybersecurity that harmonized the entire automotive ecosystem. The goal was to link the ever-changing reality of cybersecurity challenges and the ability to deploy protection quickly with an open ecosystem approach that provided the industry with the harmonization it desperately needs. So for example, I mentioned lack of visibility and communication challenges for OEMs. So this translated into real issues in the most basic processes. So I mentioned that our study found that 70% of OEMs and tier 1 suppliers require more than 3 weeks to perform a thorough risk assessment. And with Autosec, we were able to reduce that time to a matter of seconds for most of the cases. And this is just one example of how a fully digital interface for cybersecurity lifecycle management can act as a groundwork for OEM strategic cybersecurity plans. So having Autosec as the backbone for in-vehicle cybersecurity, OEMs and their suppliers can harmonize the entire lifecycle, allowing them to own the security lifecycle. So at the first step, Autosec provides OEM visibility of the cybersecurity status across all models. So may it be at the concept phase of the vehicle, or may it be for an existing car program. Within 5 minutes of onboarding a car program to Autosec, as an OEM, you gain full visibility of the cybersecurity status of that model, so that car program and all the submodels. And then automatically, Autosec will analyze all the vehicle's complex multi-component systems. So there are many dimensions for automotive potential cybersecurity attacks, and Autosec detects them for you. Afterwards, using those insights, Autosec empowers OEM to generate and customize in-vehicle cybersecurity according to their selected policies. And then Autosec automatically translate those policies into embedded security that can be deployed inside the vehicle, so it will protect vehicles in runtime. And then once an incident was reported to the OEM SOC, may it be from a C2A solution or other, then in that SOC, Autosec will empower the analyst to perform ongoing risk assessment and quickly identify and mitigate cyber attacks. Because that analyst can easily rely on the infrastructure that Autosec provided him throughout this entire security lifecycle. And this is what we mean by saying harmonize the entire lifecycle. All those steps are done today by internal and external teams. And with Autosec, you have some sort of standardization that allows you to connect all of them. So you can easily deduct from para to design to implementation and then to reaction. And that's huge. You can reduce your react time from weeks and months to hours and minutes and seconds. You can create significantly stronger defenses because you can easily prioritize your security and orchestrate it in the most optimized way, performance-wise and security-wise. Now, what we believe is most important is acknowledging that the automotive cybersecurity ecosystem is full of players, and we all need to collaborate in order to allow OEMs to protect their vehicles. Because we have many teams taking care or taking part in the cybersecurity process, right? We have a product cybersecurity could include Tara team and Red team and vulnerability tracking team, or it could be an outsourced service, and security architects and passive and active security solutions implementation and configuration and deployment of solutions, SOC analysts, and incident response. And all those teams need to collaborate over 2 decades, and they're both internal and external. And Autosec allows OEM and empowers them to consume all those different solutions quickly in the most cost-efficient way. So Autosec really empowers OEM to easily coordinate and adopt new solutions with one hub to rule them all, and keeping the ownership in the OEM's hands. So that's it for today. If there are any questions about cybersecurity harmonization, be happy to answer them now. All right, so I believe this is the Q&A part. And I'll just say that if you have any question to me in general, here are my contact details, so feel free to reach out.
Okay, so at first, thank you very much for this overview and the insights you gave to us today. We received some questions, and I would pick it up and ask you about your meaning or to provide some answers. So the first question is a little bit generic, but let's see what you will give as an answer. It is about best practices. Do you can provide some best practices in generic?
Yes, I want to go back to this slide, okay? I'll keep it neutral. Okay. Eventually, we see at OEMs now, let's say some OEMs, you'll have a database for vulnerabilities, okay? And you'll have red team analyzing some or maybe all the ECUs inside the different car programs. And you'll have a team responsible for the IDS, okay, if the OEM decided to deploy IDS inside the vehicle. And you'll have a team responsible for the, let's say, TCU protection and the head unit protection, because that's what the OEM prioritized according to his defense in-depth strategy. Okay, that was his conclusion. The best practice is to make sure that all those teams are digitally coordinated, okay? Now, by saying digitally I mean not via emails, okay? And not via Jira. That's not good enough. We have to make sure that the different pipelines are automatically connected, because only that way we'll be able to streamline cybersecurity activities. Because if some knowledge is locked in a silo in the, let's say, the R&D team in Europe, okay, and some knowledge is in a silo in the red team in the US or in the East, okay, in Japan or Korea, that's not gonna work. Response time, we won't be able to react quickly to attacks. We won't be able really to design security in the best way. So make sure all your processes, all your teams, all those different pipelines are connected and in a push way. Yes, and we are all engineers, yes? We understand what is a pipeline, right? And what is an offline manner. We have to be online, all those processes.
Okay, so thanks. If I look to the second question, it's maybe a little bit related. So from my personal opinion, the approach you mentioned now, if we look in the future and where we stand at the moment, I could imagine that it's a big task to make everything aligned in that way. That is really good. So, and the second question is in the direction, do you thought about which steps to go will lead to the fastest valuable benefit? Or in other words, do you see some low-hanging fruits where we can reach quick benefit from it?
Sure. So the first question was, it's a huge task, I guess. How do we start, right? Or where do we start from?
Yeah.
That's
So I mean to install with all the stakeholders and all over the world in this direction. So this, I guess, or I feel this will be, a big effort to spend to align everything to bring it to work perfectly. Let me say like this. And maybe we can do some smaller steps. Where do you identify it? Also in your survey, you mentioned in the automotive industry, where you see, okay, this is missing, but if you do this small step, this will bring us a great or big and a really huge benefit. So this in this direction.
Sure. So you are completely right. This is a huge effort. But what we learn from other verticals, and I think it's most critical in a safety first industry like automotive, is that some of the solutions that we are investing our budget in right now are practically useless if an incident will happen right now and we won't be able to leverage them to react quickly, or if we won't be able to react quickly, doesn't mean much, right? If a safety incident will be out of control, and one of our solutions, shiny solutions that we invested a lot of money, wasn't connected to the rest of our processes, so our reaction time was 3 weeks, and an attack is turbulating across the world, then it's practically useless. So we have to connect those processes. Now, the question is how and where. So obviously, we have to start with something. So some things that we identified as low-hanging fruits is, for example, I think the biggest cutoff that we see in the process is actually at the very beginning. Okay, so I think all OEMs today are doing Tara. And Tara process usually ends today with a Word file, right? Or Excel file, PDF format report, a very nice report, and perhaps attack tree visualization, okay? Now, this will be then forwarded to the security architects, and they will create security goals, I hope, yes, and the requirements. And then a completely different team will be then responsible to design the security itself, right, or implement the concrete solutions. They don't really have a practical access to those Tara conclusions, because they are working on concrete car programs with variants and so on, and to be able to connect those Tara results from the concept phase to the real implementation of the vehicle, and then have an ongoing monitoring between the Tara process, which is an ongoing process, and the implementation process, we see a huge cutoff. at that point. And this is a process that is being done these days because it's mandatory according to the ISO 144, yes, the TARA process. So I believe this is a low-hanging fruit because we are going to pay, the ecosystem as a whole, we're going to pay very soon, if not right now, we see it right now as well, for having this cutoff. And the price is increasing with time because when those vehicles that we are now designing and implementing will be on the road and an incident will happen, it will be much better if we will have access to all this information. Now, second of all, what I identify as low-hanging fruit is visibility. With today's, I'm not even saying let's go back, because sometimes going back, which we should do, yes, but going back is hard. But if we look at future car models, the one that we are designing these days, I think that it's a feasible task to create visibility to those car programs. So to onboard this data to the cybersecurity hub, so we can have software and hardware bomb visibility. So then it's connected to the TARA processes and the implementation processes. And if we're looking just 5 years ahead, which we do in the automotive industry, then this visibility will be the foundation for maintaining the security of our vehicles. So I guess this should be the focus for now, maybe for a start.
Oh. Okay, yeah. So about your problem description from the beginning, I totally agree. So in case there will be an incident, then we don't talk about to introduce such things stepwise. Then hopefully we have implemented everything. If not, then we will be too late in this situation. Okay, the next question.
And I must say, this is terrifying. We have to acknowledge this as an ecosystem because I'm not originally from the automotive ecosystem. I'm in this industry for 3 years now. And this is, I guess, the most planned, calculated ecosystem that I've been part of. Yes, I come from the IT. It's much less organized. We have to take this into account. It's not so far from us, right? 5 years in automotive time, this is nothing. It's almost here.
Yeah, sure. I totally agree. Yeah. Okay, come to the next question. It's have two parts. So the first is very directly. So if you developed your framework and tool, did you work together with OEMs and tier ones? And the second part of this question is, what do you think in the relation to your framework and tool? What are the significant differences between OEMs and suppliers? And is it also usable for suppliers or tier one focus?
All right. So in regards to your first question, have we developed it with OEMs and tier ones? So the answer is yes, most definitely. Such a tool, it cannot be developed without the ecosystem. And we built it in a way that it's completely open. So we had to have the feedback, first of all, so to make sure that it meets the industry needs, right? And second of all, because we understood that all those different players and future ones, we want them to be able to integrate into the ecosystem so the OEMs can really own the security lifecycle, because if they won't be able to connect it, it will be very hard for them to do so. Now, in regards to the second question, what are the differences between OEMs and tier ones? So obviously, there are a lot of differences between them, but actually I want to focus on the commonalities, right? So I want to bring up this slide. It's about risk assessment. So in our survey, 73.5% of the participants said that each entity down the supply chain is responsible for risk assessment process or will take part of it, and it's quite obvious why, right? Responsibility wise, it means that eventually both the OEM and the tier one, they're both going to need this visibility, and they're going to be able to need to communicate with each other. So Autosec is definitely for both of them.
Mhm. Okay. There was also one question related to the information you gather. So comes the information from information providers, garages, and so on, or only from within networks inside the vehicles, ECUs, or something like that, or combined?
Could you please repeat that question?
Yep. The question is, you mentioned this Autosec is a kind of a platform where you gather different informations from different stakeholders. And the question was, comes this information only directly from networks or ECUs inside the automotive ecosystem or from the car itself? Or did you take also information, for example, from some vulnerability databases or some threat intelligence providers or something like that?
Great. So that's a very good question. So actually, Autosec is an offline platform. Autosec is not connected to the vehicle directly whatsoever. So when I say offline, I mean that the OEM or the tier one, they onboard the information to Autosec using their current solutions and current formats. So for example, you can upload AR XML file, so following the AutoSAR standard to Autosec, and we will deconstruct it and provide you with automatic insights over that specific car model. So that's a way for us to get information. And then afterwards, we will, let's say we generated some sort of embedded security solution, then via OTA or on the assembly line or garage, we will deploy that security solution inside the vehicle. But then there could be any other security solution here, which will report to SOC. So SOC is a system that is online, right? So it's connected directly to the vehicles or indirectly via other pipelines. And then Autosec will get information from the SOC or will act as an helper tool for the SOC operator. And in regards to the question, I think there was mentioned vulnerability tracking service, for example. This is another system that will be connected to Autosec to push alerts here, because this is the hub. Here you have the ability to analyze those alerts, orchestrate your security, compare it with Tara results, and so on. We find it's a very common case where the OEM has vulnerability service and SOC and a lot of different solutions that they buy from different suppliers or develop in-house. And Autosec is this hub that connects all the dots for them and allow them to act on those insights and solutions.
Okay, thanks for answering that. Then I would say, let me provide a final question. Will Autosec support multiple cybersecurity vendors?
So the answer is definitely yes, and Autosec is actually already supporting multiple security vendors from a variety of types of solutions. So it's most definitely, as this is a very important principle for us to make it an open ecosystem, because it's I'll make it so simple. Yes, C2A does not provide all the needed cybersecurity solutions for OEMs. Even if we wanted to make it a closed ecosystem, we couldn't, because the OEM has so many suppliers. But putting that aside, personally, I don't think closed ecosystem is the right approach, because we're not handling a simple task here, yes, or a very contained small task, yes. Let's protect some sort of a medium-sized organization. We're talking about protecting multiple car programs, lots of instances of vehicles on the road. So it's tens of millions of instances. We just wanted to create a hub to allow the OEM to actually adopt a lot of different solutions from multiple vendors in order to really be able to protect his fleets.
Okay, so thanks for this as well. I totally agree with you. And I think it's also very important, like you said, to align somehow all the suppliers which are working for the automotive industry, and also to share the information and the knowledge and so on, to reach the best possible protection against cyber security attacks. Okay, so then thanks again for this great presentation. Thanks also to the audience to make it possible to have a very interesting question and answer session at the end. And before I finally close, I will give Nathaniel the chance to find some final words from your side as well.
Right. So thank you so much for that, Sven and John, for having me today on this great platform. And I think it's amazing to see how ASRG exploded, I guess. And it's I think a good testimonial for the automotive ecosystem that we are we have matured as an ecosystem, and I think we are at a very exciting times for the ecosystem in adopting cybersecurity solutions. And I'll just say really that if there are any questions from anyone in the audience or watching this on the YouTube channel, feel free to approach me on LinkedIn or via email. I put in my personal phone number. And you're welcome also to follow C2A Security on LinkedIn. We try to keep an active channel and with great content. So thank you, and thank you so much for having me today.
You're very welcome. And thanks again also from my side for this interesting overview and this information you provided to us. And then I would say we can close for today. I wish everyone who was joining a good day, a good night, or good morning wherever you are in the world. And thanks for participating. And hopefully you will come back in one of our future webinars. Thanks and bye bye.